original JKD guys will say things like, "Oh, well, Jeet Kune Do Concepts guys, you're just taking a jab from boxing, a round kick from Muay Thai, a sweep from Silat, and a hip throw from Judo, and it's just a hodgepodge of shit all thrown together." Isn't that how the original JKD stuff got put together too?
Hello, my name is Jamie Sparling, and I am the owner and head instructor of Affinity Martial Arts and Wellness in Owasso, Wisconsin. Welcome to the FormABLE podcast, where we talk about formable moments in the lives of martial artists, as well as formable moments in martial arts. Before we get going, please like, subscribe, and leave us a comment. All right, and if you have a question for my guest, I'll make sure he gets it. Maybe he'll come back on and we'll answer your questions. All right, today I have Kent Nelson from Michigan here. What area of Michigan are you from again, sir?
I'm in Lansing, Michigan.
Lansing,
right
Michigan.
In the center.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Nelson is an instructor underneath Guru Inasanto, as well as a martial artist that is trained in various different systems. He has a great YouTube channel as well, and an online learning platform, I believe. Yes, right?
Yeah, we do. It's an older one now. We're currently working on making an updated one, but yes, it's up there and it's still available.
Okay, great.
We're gonna keep that available until the next one's ready.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, right now I'm working on a what I call an AIM program, Affinity Integrated Martial Arts, and doing an online program as well, and all that good stuff. So I'd be really interested in learning a little bit from you, and also bringing you back on when you're ready to relaunch your new program.
Cool. I'd love to.
All right. Excellent. So, T. Kent Nelson. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Should I call you Guru Kent? What is your preference, brother?
You can call me whatever you're comfortable calling me. You're good.
Okay. What does the T stand for?
The Kent. No.
Ah, good for you. That was great.
No, that's an old standing joke. No, the T stands for Thomas. It was Thomas is also my father's name,
right.
And so I think just to avoid confusion around the house growing up, my parents referred to me by my middle name.
Okay, right on. Excellent. So, Guru Kent Nelson, how long have you been doing the Inasanto martial? Well, let's talk a little bit about your martial arts history in general. Okay. If I remember correctly, you spent time with Tadashi Yamashita. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
one
of my students here at Affinity, he also teaches for a school where they do Kabuto, and we're talking about your videos sometimes, and some of the different things that you've done. So tell me about your martial arts history, please.
I mean, it's pretty lengthy. It's like I've been doing this for 40 years, so I'll just try to give you highlights.
That's great. That's great. You know what to do. It's your story, brother.
It started in Taekwondo when I was 7. By the time I was 12, I met the first real teacher that changed. I shouldn't say changed. I said opened up a door of possibilities in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the first teacher to ever really make me believe in myself. His name was Chad Ostrander. And he believed in me. He saw me as a black belt before I could see me as a black belt. And once he told me that and helped me understand that he could see me that way, it helped me realize, well, if the guy that actually does the real stuff can see me that way, then maybe I actually can. And then that just always led me to keep trying and keep working for it. And, to this day, I'm still trying to live up to the potential that Chad Ostrander saw in me, So I did Taekwondo from the time I was 7 till about 14. I went on and I did some Tichuquansu kickboxing with a man named Marcel Banks, and him and I were pretty tight for about 12 years. I got involved in Japanese martial arts from I think when I was 14, I started that, and I was at a place called Anderson's Karate Dojo under John Anderson, who was he was a very good teacher. I learned so much more from John after I stopped training with him that I realized as I grew up more as an adult and realized what an incredible impact John Anderson actually had on me and influencing me without me knowing it at the time, because I was too young at the time to understand. I was under him for about 3 years or so. And then from there I I went on to get my black belt in Shorin, Nakazato Shorin, Kan Shorin Ryu, under a man named Charles Peterson. I started training with Tadashi Yamashita. I trained with Yamashita. I followed Yamashita around for about 15 years. Oh man, started doing combat submission wrestling. Oh man, I'm just like all over the place. Sorry.
Well, that's all right. We do this podcast completely all over the place. All right, Dan, don't worry about it.
Somewhere around. Well, yeah, I went out to go train with Yamashita. Started training with him, and then somewhere around, I like to say circa 2000.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the exact date, but somewhere circa 2000. I think the earliest Inasano certificate I have goes back to 2003, and I don't think I have them all. I didn't know you're supposed to keep them. I didn't even know who he was when I went to my first seminar, believe it or not. And so anyways, so I started training with him somewhere around that time period. Started in 2007, started doing combat submission wrestling under Eric Paulson, directly under Coach Sean Kitzman.
Mm-hmm.
Started training around 2007. I spent time with a man named David Hatch doing private lessons for about 8 years, working Balintawak, working Silat, working Wing Chun, working a lot of the Inasano Kali stuff, material there. Let's see, about 2010, I met a man named Chet Skemahorn, who has become my jujitsu teacher for the last 15 years now.
Mm-hmm.
For the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu lineage.
Mm-hmm.
About 5 years ago, I guess about 2020, I went back to one of my old Shorin Ryu teachers, who then switched over to doing Rute under Taiko Oyata, and was trained with him for more than 30 years. And I went and started doing private lessons with him, and now I do every Monday for the last 5 years. I've done a private lesson in Rute, as well as he also became my internal martial arts instructor. So we do Tai Chi and Qigong and Taegong, and I do a lot of stuff.
You do a lot of stuff.
What's funny is, like, when I was a kid, there used to be this martial arts school in town, and that martial arts school had every art you've ever heard of listed on the window of that school. Like, you say, yeah, we've done that. We can teach you that here. We've got all the stuff, and I can remember as a kid hearing people talk about, like, beware the guy that says he does 100 arts. That's all BS, yada, yada, yada. I mean, of course, those were all the teachers I grew up with who told you should only just train one art, and that's the art I'm teaching you, and stay with me forever. And now I am 100% that guy that if I were to write all the arts and go down through the whole story, it completely sounds like BS, like 100% BS. But martial arts has really been my major focus and consistent focus, amongst other things in my life. Things have kind of gone in and out, for the last 40 years. So I hope I have windows big enough to write all those arts.
Well, isn't it funny how life kind of comes back like that, because it seems funny and then all of a sudden you're that guy, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It comes back around like that. So you started martial arts at 7.
Yes, sir. Yes,
so
sir.
You don't really probably even remember a time in your life without martial arts very much. Or am I putting words in your mouth? I'm just now getting a chance to catch up with you.
I mean, I'm sure. I mean, I have memories since before I was 7, but as far as, like, I don't have much time in my life where I didn't identify myself as a martial artist, because I think when I turned 7 and my parents enrolled me in martial arts in that first Taekwondo class, I think that started the beginning of my identifying me, like who am I? What is it that I do? Because I always liked that kind of thing. And like, my buddies and I would watch G.I. Joe as little kids, like watching the cartoon. They're all into Destro and Duke and Flint and Shipwreck, and I'm the guy watching Storm Shadow.
That's what I'm talking about.
The only reason I ever tuned in was for Storm Shadow and maybe Snake Eyes, but he wasn't big on conversation. And so
yeah.
And so only the G.I. Joe fans will understand that joke. But but yeah, I mean, I can remember, and I've told this story before on podcasts and stuff, but like I remember, that's 1985. I remember my mom and my aunt putting in a VHS tape of the Karate Kid to keep me busy for 2 hours so they could go talk in the kitchen, and Mr. Miyagi came on, man, and like I knew, like I was just drawn to that character. Yeah, never really drawn to Daniel or anybody else, but I was drawn to Miyagi for whatever reason. That calmness but with the confidence and power inside anyways, and the need not to have to prove everything like Daniel did or whatever. There was something about that I always enjoyed. I always enjoyed the story of the relationship between the student and the teacher. And I think that formed like also one of my first lenses I started to see the world through.
That's great. That's a brilliant answer, by the way, and I totally relate. Earlier today, I went and I was going to buy, I don't have any of the toys here super handy, but I was going to go to GameStop and buy a toy, all right? Storm Shadow called my name, dude. Like, literally. Yeah. Yeah, to this day, I'm setting up my office, and I got the little Daredevil and some Storm Shadow and all that. How old are you, sir?
I am 47 years old.
47 years old. Okay, I just turned 50.
Happy birthday. Congratulations.
Well, yeah, it was a little while ago, right? And after 49, you start just calling yourself 50 anyway, so who we joking, right? That's like one of those, I already feel like it's coming around the corner. No.
Yeah, but 50s, I still feel like 50s are congratulations, because it's, to get to 50 means you have made it through some really tough things in life that only come with the passage of time.
Experience.
You know what I mean? And so to see where you're at 50 in general sort of speaks to a little bit of your experiences, but also a little bit towards your own personal mindset and ability to deal with obstacles, problems, and things like that, right? Because by 50, where you are shows an accumulation of your decisions, whether we like it or not.
Yeah, brother.
Yeah, and it's not 100%, right? Because some of it is luck, some of it is the people that we meet, some of it is genetics, some of it is whatever it might be, and it isn't all 100% you, but man, at least 50% of it is how you responded to things.
Yeah.
And I've seen people who are 50 who are bitter pills, man. And I've seen people who are 50 who are just like joys and lights to be around. And the more you're around those people, the more you want to be around those people. And I think that's one of the things I've really enjoyed about a lot of the older generations that I've met in the JKD and Kali communities. I've always enjoyed following the old teachers, because the old teachers will tell you what your body can still do when you're old.
Yes.
Yeah. So I've always enjoyed, people like to kind of, some people in our community like to kind of make fun of like karate. But I tell you what, there's a reason why the old men are still doing karate, because it allows their body to keep moving, right? And it allows it to grow and change as they grow and change. You look at Guru Dan and you see, like, okay, at 88, we can still do Kali, we can still do Silat, we can still do trapping, we can still, walk through the mitts and keep our bodies moving. We can still, lightly roll and work on things on the ground. And that's important to know. You don't see like 88-year-old college wrestlers out there still putting in the grind, you know what I'm saying?
Bro, yeah.
And
definitely.
There's exceptions to every rule, but in general, you see a lot. Now, what you do see is you see a lot of older jiu-jitsu guys, because you learn how to adjust the art as you get older. You see older jiu-jitsu guys, older Kali guys. You see older karate and Okinawa martial art guys in general, older Chinese martial art guys in general. You don't see a lot of 70-year-old Muay Thai bouts going down. And that's a beautiful art, man. And there's I take nothing away from Muay Thai. It's just harder. It's just harder on the body as the body ages. Right. It's harder to make those adjustments.
Yeah. It can be part of the cycle. right? It
Yeah.
can definitely be part of the cycle, but if that is the concentration, then it's going to come with some other pieces, like any
Yeah,
art, you know.
everything does. But if you look at like, if you've ever met, obviously Guru Dan, but if you've ever met, and I don't mean you, I know you've met these people, but anybody that's listening,
For
if you've
sure,
ever met
yeah,
somebody
absolutely, yeah.
like Guru Dan, or somebody like Arjan Shai, or Francis Fong, Sifu Rick Fei, you get this feel of like positive energy from these individuals. And when you meet them, it's not their martial arts prowess that makes you want to learn for them or follow them. It's like their energy. It's like I always make the joke to my students, and whenever we talk about Guru Rick Fei and I point out his picture on the wall, I always say like he's the only one that I look forward to going to train with to do the Ikas.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know what it is that he can just put you through those walkthrough basics in the beginning at that whatever pace that he moves at, that just it's almost like meditative.
Yes,
you know,
sir.
and it just it clicks in. It feels good to the body, and Guru Rick Fei is about the only person that can get me excited to do the basics, and I really do. I get excited to do the basics. He always winds up showing me. I only get to see him every few years, but he always winds up showing me some little extra something inside those basics that I've never seen from somebody else before. It's like, oh, wow, that's so cool.
Mm-hmm. And he presents it with that excitement, like you're talking about that small detail of that basic where you're like, I could just do this for a while, right?
Yeah, I think one of the things that Rick Fei does well, and he'll probably tell you that he picked this up from 100 different teachers of his own. But I give credit to Rick for this.
Yeah.
When Rick teaches, I feel like he is literally teaching from a place of love. I have learned from people that were teaching from a place of I'm broke, I need the money. I have learned from people that are teaching from a place of I'm insecure and I need you to see how tough I am. Mm-hmm. I have, you know what I'm saying? I've learned from people who are like, who say, I'm incredibly smart and I'm going to show you exactly how smart I am. And I've learned from a lot of people, but man, and I've learned great things from a lot of people too, by the way.
For sure.
But I use those examples to highlight how highly I think of the way Guru Rick Fei teaches.
Yeah, I appreciate that. He's an amazing teacher. He's 3 hours away from me in Wausau, Wisconsin. We get to see him quite often, and I feel exactly the same way, brother. He's one of those people that if I'm around him, I feel like he just wants me to do better and be better, and that's just a piece of almost mentorship that we look for, right? One of the things you talked about with a couple of the gentlemen in your history, you spoke with them with such esteem, right? Even if you not really know the lessons at the time, and I've had some teachers like that too, like I just didn't really understand what he's trying to give me at that time. Do you have a passion for mentorship?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I truly believe that like teaching is sacred. Teaching is a calling, and teaching can be healing as well. When you're teaching somebody, it's more than just like, here, let me show you this thing. I mean, it could be, right? It could be just like, it could be very transactional, but I try to like think about it in terms of like, when this person is coming to me to learn because, well, number one, they're not just investing, potentially investing their money, but they're investing their time, right? And I recognize how little time I have to do the things that I want to do, and even the things that I need to do. And so when I see, when somebody's training a lot, whether they're coming to their group classes or they're doing a lot of private lessons, whatever, I really try to give them my all in that, because they're taking their time, and really they're taking their time times two, because they had to, if they're paying for lessons, they had to work, they had to give their time to earn that money, to pay a tuition or pay a private lesson, so they could be here to then take that time to learn the material. So I really want to make sure that like I'm trying to work towards this person's goals. but also that I give them something that's going to provide value to them throughout their training career. Not just like, oh yeah, let me show you this one little trick or this one little thing. Okay, there we go. I try to really kind of say, what is this person looking for? What is the message I want to make sure that I get across along with what they're looking for? And also to kind of create it so that they're going to want to come back. I want to provide enough positive value that they want to come back. Not because like, oh yeah, I want 100 students. No, but it's because like, I know I'm building goodwill with a person if they want to come back and continue to learn. That means that I'm doing my job well as a teacher, and it means I am providing value, because if I'm not providing value to them, why would they come back? Right. And so for me, I would say that student teacher relationship, that mentorship is extraordinarily important. And honestly, some of the best relationships I've made in my life have come through people that were part of my instructor program. Yeah. Because I wind up spending more time with those people. I wind up sharing more things with those people because I spend more time with those people. Yeah. I wind up getting to know those people more because I spend more time with those people, most of, or I say a lot of the KSK family have become, what I would consider to be my family, people that I would sit around the Christmas table with, or the Thanksgiving Day table with, or whatever,
I absolutely believe that. I really do. I could tell there's just a passion. I didn't even want to ask you about mentorship, but the way you told your story, I could tell your passion for mentorship, and that only would make sense if you are willing to be there for your students to the best of your ability. So there's a KSK in Boston, yes?
Well, that's an extension of my group, yes.
Yeah, the extension of your group. How did that work, and how were you able to? Did they contact you? Is that part of your online learning piece?
So I was. I guess it kind of goes like this. How Boston got started goes back a lot earlier before Boston got started. It goes back to my story a little bit, but I don't know. I was maybe 20. I don't know. And Tadashi Yamashita came to Mason, Michigan. The first time I ever saw him. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, whoa, this guy that travels all the way around the world comes to this little teeny town. And so I got to see him and meet him. And as I was talking with the main instructor there, his name is Dave Hayes. He lives in Williamston, Michigan here. He's a very good friend of mine. I think Dave's an amazing martial artist. And he was the one that told me, oh yeah, he travels around. I'm like, you can do that? You can travel around the world teaching martial arts? I was like, oh man, I think that's what I would like to do, Yes, and then years later, I meet Inasanto, and then I find out through talking with Inasanto and some of Inasanto's people that like, yeah, he travels the world teaching martial arts, and he also has a school in LA, and he's there 4 days a week, and he's on the road 3 days a week. And I was like, whoa, you can have a school and you can travel and teach seminars, So that gave me the model that I thought I kind of wanted to shoot for at the time. So I really didn't know much about like how I was going to get this thing going.
Sure.
And so I was trying to get seminars. I'm always trying to like get seminars going in different places. I like meeting new people. I like seeing new places. I like connecting with folks, creating new family. I love that. I absolutely love that. And so I've been advertising seminars for a while. I was brought out to do a seminar in, I can't remember the town, but it was New Jersey. And this guy named Daryl Smith showed up at the seminar. Didn't talk to me the entire time. Like the first day, didn't say a word to me at all. And then our host of that seminar dropped us off and didn't take us out to dinner. He was just like, see you guys, boom, dropped us off. And the hotel we were staying at, it was like they were building this new section of town, and they like built the hotel first for the construction workers or something.
Oh, okay.
and dropped them off there. So it was like 3 miles to the closest place to eat. And I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna walk 3 miles to like, this is ridiculous. And, but I noticed I noticed this blue truck in the parking lot. And I said to my partner I brought with me there that day, I was like, I think I know that truck. I think that truck was at the seminar. And so I said, I think that guy's name was Daryl. And so I actually called the front of the hotel or whatever it was. And I asked them, like, this is going to sound weird, but do you have a Daryl staying here? And they're like, you're right, we do. We have one Daryl. And they connected me to his room. And I was like, I've never done this before. I just needed, a ride to go eat. Yeah. and I was like, hey, I don't know if you remember me or not, but my name is Kent Nelson. He's like, yeah, I remember you, dude. And I just basically told him we kind of got stranded with nowhere to without a vehicle, and I was like, would you mind just driving us to some place where I can buy a burger or something? And he's like, oh yeah, come on, let's go. So he grabbed me and my partner there, and we went out to dinner. We had a great time. We laughed all night long. We had a great. I think our waiter was like the season 3 runner up from American Idol. It was crazy. It was a whole weird night, And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun actually. And that night we went back to the hotel room. I was like, man, this guy was so cool to us. I was like, let's invite him in and show him some knife disarming stuff because he had never seen anything like that before and just kind of blow his mind. So we just showed him the kneeling drill where you're just disarming constantly, and he loved it. He thought it was amazing. And so the next day he's like, hey, I want to be on the second half of the seminar. He's like, okay, let's do this. How do I do this? How to become part of you guys? And we said, well, we've got a weapons camp coming up. I didn't really think he'd come, Yeah, and
I understand.
I show up for the weapons camp, and there he is, all by himself. I'm like, oh wow, came all the way from Boston. That's crazy. So,
well done, Daryl.
Yeah, so we started forming a relationship right there, and I started going out to Boston and teaching him. And I go out there. It's been like 12 years now, 12 or 13, I think. I know it's been at least 12 years, and I'm out there 3 times a year. I'm out there usually in March to do a jiu-jitsu seminar for his people. I'm out there in May. As a matter of fact, I'm heading out in a few weeks, I think, to do a JKD seminar. And then in October, I always go back out and do a Kali seminar for him. And so that's just kind of how that started. And I've got other little places I go to, but Daryl's kind of the other person that really made it through the curriculum to get the level of guru. Mm-hmm. And so we call him KSK Boston because he absolutely, he represents the family out there too. I mean, when I go out there, those people are my family too. I get shown so much love in Boston. I can't wait to see the people. I can't wait to see them when I fly out there. They're the nicest people in the world.
I see it on social media, and everybody looks genuinely happy, and I know you're out there a lot, so I just wanted to ask, because I think that's really neat, that's, our instructors had to do things like that, right? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? For us to be able to do it at all, really, right?
Yes, sir.
And you're there 3 times a year with the upkeep and everything. That's amazing, man. That's just really cool. Really cool.
Well, I think it's more cool on their part than my part, because they're the ones that have to figure out flights and lodging and who's going to drive me around and who's going to make sure that all the bills get paid and who's going to make sure that, the school is there and clean and everything, because Daryl's driving me around. So somebody's got to volunteer their time to go open up the school ahead of time. And it's a true, Guru Daryl Smith has really created a real family out there at KSK Boston. The official name of the school is the Mass Academy of Martial Arts. Okay. You can find him at massacademyma.com. Mm-hmm. But we call him Mass Academy of Martial Arts KSK Boston because he was the first one to make the official, become the first official affiliate that I'll own up to.
Right on. That's awesome. And you're out there all the time helping them out. I just wondered a little bit how that went. I follow on social media, and all the students look like they're doing really well. I just watched you kind of be emotional at a black belt promotion on your YouTube channel for a young lady. And it's okay. I'm not going to try to bring it out of you now.
Don't make me cry on a podcast.
I am not doing all that. That's why. No, but But I thought that was really cool. Once again, I didn't know I was going to get a chance to catch up with you today. Started watching, incredibly invested in your students, and now that makes sense. That's got to be a part of your success. Just has to be.
Oh man, yeah. So it's funny because uh, so I've only gotten two of my students, but I teach kids classes and also teens classes, and we've only seen and I have standards, so I've only ever seen two of my students, and they were both teenagers, make it to their black belts, and ironically, both of them were in the same year. Both of them were last year, and just a few months apart. And both of them also started in my little kids program and graduated into the teens program. Now both of them kind of like moonlight in the adults program, and it was emotional for me because I can, and it was emotional for me for both actually for both Jesus and for Maddie, because I remember them as little kids as white belts. I remember those days, trying to just like get them to not fall over when you tap them on the shoulder, and just those little stuff like that. And to have them giving me hell on the ground and sending jabs in my face, there's a bittersweetness to that.
There's a very bittersweetness, sir. That is amazing. I thought it was really cool. For those of you, we'll put a link in the comments section or the description so you can check out that video because it's absolutely amazing. 25 years. KSK?
Yes, KSK. Yep, we started KSK 25 years ago.
Wow. Tell me about the journey you kind of already have, right? But at the same time, how do you develop programs? More importantly, I bet you're probably really good at developing relationships too in that way. And that's really important because you really can't have one other than the other sometimes.
Yeah, so as far as the journey goes, I started when I was, when I shouldn't have been teaching. I started teaching on my own at night. I never stopped learning, never stopped going places and training, but I started teaching on my own at 19 years old. I went through Lansing Parks and Recreation, and they let me teach out of like a school gymnasium in the evenings. And so I was doing that three nights a week, and then eventually that moved on to they gave me like a dance studio a few years later that they rent out and stuff like that. And I taught for Lansing Parks and Recreation for 7 years, and which was nice because it gave me like the flexibility to go to college and stuff like that. And then from there, I bought a house in 2003, and the reason I bought the house was actually because I liked it had like a 2.5 car garage, and I liked the garage. And I remember my father drove around with me looking at houses with the real estate agent, and I was like, I like this. Yeah, I said, this could be a good dojo here, And my dad's like, yeah. I mean, you could probably like, I don't know, hang a heavy bag right here next to like your workbench in your car. I'm like, you don't see what I see. And my garage wound up looking just like what's behind me, by the way.
Oh, that's beautiful. I've been in some great training garages.
Yeah, we put in the sage tatami mats and the mirrors and the whole 9 yards. And every school has just been a bigger version of my garage. But anyways, I taught out of the garage for 10 years. And when we got to, I think I had one class where I had 14 people doing double stick in the garage. And I would go in and I would have to teach the lesson and then step outside. So there was enough room for people to train and swing their sticks and move around because I couldn't be in the room without getting hit. I was like, okay, maybe it's time, so somewhere around must have been 2012, 2013, something like that. We moved to our first commercial location out on Pennsylvania Street, or Pennsylvania Avenue. We affectionately call that place the Swamp now because it had a leaky roof the entire time we were there, all 7 years. So 7 years Parks and Rec, 10 years out of the garage, 7 years in the commercial location. And then in 2020, we moved to where we're at now.
Beautiful. That is a wonderful story. You're celebrating the 25th anniversary with the Silat Camp, yes?
Yeah. So I I have always, so I've done Silat for as long as I've known Guru Dan, so like I said, somewhere circa 2000. So somewhere, it's been more than 20 years, somewhere between 20 and 25 years. And I've always loved Silat, and I've always viewed it as being part of the Jeet Kune Do curriculum. It's got its own section of flair and feel, just like everything else does. I've never trained Silat as in like it's just its purity of this system of Silat and this system of Silat only. I've done a lot of like the Mafalindo Majapahit Silat under a lot of different teachers to Guru Dan. And I have trained with some other Silat folks, but more in like just getting to kind of understand their flavor a little bit, but nothing formal.
Sure.
If you know what I'm saying. I've always enjoyed it. It's always been a passion of mine. And I was telling somebody, I was like, yeah, someday I'd like to do a Silat camp. And I was always really hesitant because, Guru has his Silat camp.
Yes, sir.
And I didn't want to be looked at as, oh, he's just trying to be a Guru Dan,
Yeah.
And I always kind of felt like, well, when I get better, and then one day, because I never feel like I'm good enough. And then one day, I was talking with somebody about it and talking about how it's KSK's 25th year. And it's also my 40th year doing the martial arts. And it just hit me in that conversation, like, screw it. I said, I want to do something big for the celebration. It's 25 years and 40 years. So I want to do something big. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to teach the camp. I'm going to do it for me. I'm not going to not do it because of what other people might think, or like maybe because it's not where I would want it to be yet, or like because I want to plan it for the next 5 years to make it perfect, because that's kind of a habit I have.
Me too.
Instead it was like, let's just do it. So we're just going to do it. And what I think we're going to focus on, because I've been to a lot of Silat camps and a lot of Silat seminars and a lot of Silat lessons where people try to, it's like they've got the Guru Dan virus, the Guru Dan flu, or whatever you want to call it, but where they think they have to teach everything they know and everything they've ever seen and every little detail as fast as humanly possible, because that's what they think they're seeing from Guru Dan. And that's what their impression of a good Silat teacher is. And Guru Dan is his own thing. He is his own thing. You can't be him,
Yes,
right?
sir.
You've got to find you. And I can see that a lot in people that are trying to like relive through that. And I think I've seen that through me over the years without realizing,
Me too.
I mean, how do you not exemplify your teachers?
For sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
They are the lens that you're thinking through and looking through, and until you can find your own voice. And so what I really wanted to do with this camp was make it a different experience than that, right? So I wanted to go for this first camp, we're going to go for depth instead of width. We're only going to pick about 5 different like basics that you see all the time. But we're going to spend 2 days really going into, what are the real details, the weight shifts, the little off balance movements, like, what are the things that make it work? Not just the choreography, because everybody can do the choreography, but what happens when the choreography doesn't work out the way you want it to? You don't have a cooperative partner. What are the things that we have to do? Or how do we train in a method that allows us to learn the feeling that we are looking for? Because to me, like Silat and Jiu-Jitsu have so much in common.
Yes, sir.
And the biggest thing is like Silat, just like Jiu-Jitsu, is an art that needs to be felt. It is so much an art of feeling, and about like, and I use this all the time with my students to do both the Silat and the Jiu-Jitsu with me. But I tell them all the time, if they're Jiu-Jitsu guys, I say, listen, when you're looking for this foot sweep, this is like doing a sweep from guard, right? Like you got to wait for that moment where they're pushing forward and the energy is just right. You don't force a sweep from guard. They go nowhere. You've got to wait until you feel they're at a certain angle, and then you hit it. It's like Silat's the exact same thing.
Yes.
And so we're going to spend a lot of time working on making sure that we understand, what are the levers, where's the tipping points, where's the balance, and really making sure that whoever comes to this camp, when they leave, they have a significantly better understanding of how Silat works than when they walked in. Because I've been to seminars and I've been to mini camps and things that people have held at their schools where all I know is that you know more than me. That doesn't mean I'm better. And I would rather, and I shouldn't say Silat camps. I've been to a lot of martial arts presentations, trainings, where you walk away knowing that the instructor knows more than you, but you don't necessarily know if you know much more than you did when you walked in the door to start with.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
that's kind of sad at moments. And the other thing I like that you talked about is that especially when teaching Silat or something that we get really excited about, sometimes it's real easy to go off that crazy train and try to share so many details, right?
Yeah.
And do so many things, especially because it's hard. A lot of people don't exactly understand what Silat is. They don't know what to ask about it or anything like that. So for me, if I get them interested, I always go off the crazy train. And then I had to just learn just to pull it back and that, one thing, right? I think that's great that you're doing that. I think it's great that you decided not to wait until you thought it's where it needed to be, right? Because we do study underneath Guru Dana Osano, and it'll never ever look like that. It'll never ever 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 ever. But when he teaches us this, I believe he's saying, I really hope that you spread this, right? And so by having this, this at your school at this time, the people that are there will really get a feel for it. That's amazing. When you say pick 4 or 5 things, do you mean the sweep, like a sweep, like do 4 sweeps over the 2 days? And I'm not trying to put you in a corner because you're probably still figuring it out. And sometimes when you teach, the minute you see how everybody moves, you got to shift. You know what I mean?
So,
just a little bit.
So we're gonna pick 5 techniques or concepts, whatever you want to call them.
Okay.
And we're going to hammer down those concepts, the inner workings of what makes them work, slow everything down, show you a few entries. That's all going to be day 1.
Mm-hmm.
And the day 2, we are going to get into training methods. So that now that you understand the mechanics, now we're going to get into training methods of like how to find the timing, how to find the energy, how to find the right, the feel of like when it's time to go, where their weight's at, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think a lot of times they also get taught mashed together, and it isn't always like I think it's very common that you'll see. How do I say this? Because I don't want this to sound as though like I've been unhappy with my training, because it's not the case at all.
Sure.
But I also understand my experience, and I wanted to help somebody maybe avoid some of the obstacles that I had when first learning.
Sounds like a good teacher to me, Kent. And sometimes that's a little bit different. I try to say the same thing to my students. That's all I'm trying to do. You're right.
I think you've been to a seminar where somebody's been teaching Silat, I assume, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So it's not an uncommon experience for students, and you may have had this experience because I had this experience,
mm-hmm.
where you go, and whether it's Silat or any other art, but you go and you start to learn. And if you've been to, say, like a Guru Dan seminar, he'll straight up tell you, like, he's teaching to people all across different levels in the room, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anybody from like kindergartner to graduate school,
yep.
Right? So a lot of times what happens, like you might get into training methods, say like you're finding sweeps out of Hubad, or you're finding, somebody feeds you a Muay Thai 4 count and you find the Putakapala off the Karasak and all this kind of stuff. And if that's the first thing you're seeing, and you might not recognize that, like, oh, that might be more graduate level, and not realizing that necessarily, because it's a lot of times the training methods and the techniques get put together very quickly right in front. Mm-hmm. And so it's overwhelming.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah. Like I know for myself, because I'm a slow learner, incredibly slow learner, that it would have been a lot easier to like break down. Let's use the foot sweep. It's the first thing usually taught. Let's do the foot sweep, and then it's okay. Let's show you how to do one entry off a jab. Now let's go one entry to the foot sweep. Now let's show you how to use that same entry off a cross. Now the same entry to the foot sweep. Let's show it off a hook. Okay, boom, boom, off a hook. Now do the foot sweep. Now let's show you what a Karasaki is to block a kick. All right, well now let's break that down. Make sure you have the technique. All right, now let's go back and visit the foot sweep. Now send all four things together. And that is more how my brain works in these small pieces that Lego together.
Yeah.
That's not always how things get presented, because you have multiple levels of people in the room, and there are other people in the room that are going to be bored if they're like, bro, are we really going back to this is where your foot goes? And I understand that the desire to want to cover everybody's level in the room. But I'm almost pretty sure that I'm not going to have Guru Dan show up at my seminar. And so I think I'm going to rely on the fact that I'm going to bank on the fact that it's probably going to be people that are more like me, that could benefit from a slower pace and from breaking things down a little bit more and then linking them back up together in the end so that they make sense to slower people like me. And that is no slam on Guru Dan at all, because I love going to his Silat stuff. Like he is who I look at Guru Dan, man.
Yes, sir.
When I look at like amazing Silat people, I think of Guru Dan. Then I think of Guru Daniel Lanero after him. I think of I think of Rick Fay. Still is an amazing Silat. Mal Morney, Elvin Gunanow. Like these guys are fantastic level, and they're also not the people that I'm trying to teach. So it's okay to bring it down and break it down and say, hey guys, we're just going to work on the basics, and we're going to make sure that you're so good at those basics when you're done with this weekend that you won't have to sit there and like be as lost in the future. Like you'll be able to jump right in. And that's what I want. Like by the time anybody's done with this camp, come Monday's class, if we start running foot sweeps and Purta Kapalas and back sweeps and whatever, people are like, oh cool, yeah, no, I got that. I understand how that works now. It's so much easier than I thought it was. It's not as mystical as it looks. Let's make this happen. Not to take any of the mystery and mysticalness out of it, because I think that's part of the beauty of the art is the esotericness.
Absolutely. But something you said earlier that I believe 100% is Silat. You got to feel it, right? And sometimes you don't have to feel it even violently. Maybe violently one time to go, wow, because just a piece. But to me, and I'm nobody important, but it teaches martial arts physics through touch, similar to jiu-jitsu, right? So that's the rub right there. And so you don't teach physics, usually jump in and Joey Bada Bing from down the street all of a sudden decides he's going to go to the, you know what I mean? So I bet I'd put money that at the end of your camp, all these people are going to have a really good idea of the levers, right? Which is really what fits into what we do as JKD Concepts people. That's something else I thought was amazing. I noticed that you, at one time period, and if you don't want to talk about this, it's okay, right? But you said JKD Concepts was listed as on your website, and when I first got certified, I remember all the stuff that happened in the 90s and all the different things. So I literally was like, every year I would just, whatever my certificate said, I'd just change it. It's Chun Fan Kung Fu. That's what we're doing. Then, whatever. When I saw you would put JKD Concepts, I put it on our website and everything right afterwards. Because it is whatever, when we're still learning and still mixing, right? And still figuring it out, that's probably what it is, or at least it can be for our students.
I chose to start using the name Concepts a few years ago. I know there's some controversy around the name Concepts. If you don't know what that controversy is, you're lucky.
Yes.
Stay out of it. because whatever your opinion is, you're going to be wrong. You won't win. It's pretty much just politics. It's just martial arts.
It will not make you a better martial artist.
Won't make you a better martial artist. So the reason I started using it is this. It's this simple. You have this faction of people out there that insist on using the term original JKD.
Yep.
That's fine. That I have no problem with that. To me, original JKD, if you're going to talk about it, you're talking about Jun Fun Gung Fu, because you're talking about if you're preserving the material from, what was it, 63 to,
I don't know,
69 or 73, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. If you're preserving that material and saying it's this and just this and nothing else, then that's original JKD. That's the original. I mean, by definition, that's the original, because once Bruce passed, he added nothing more to it. So therefore it's the original, and there's a definite distinction and difference between what was being taught in that time period and what is being taught through Guru Dan now anyways, and what Guru Dan has brought to it and evolved it into. Mm-hmm. I've heard that he mentioned the term concepts in an interview or something like that. And later on, he said he almost wished he hadn't, or something, because of what it caused, whatever.
Exactly.
But essentially, I recognize that when one refers to the term concepts, people automatically assume you're coming from the Inosanto lineage. And when one says original JKD, they figure you're probably coming from like maybe the Ted Wong lineage or something like that, or Taki Kimura lineage, And I don't really care. Like when people say, "Oh, it means they're coming from the Inosanto lineage." You're damn right I am.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I don't want to be part of something that I've been part of martial arts that say you can only study this and nothing else and nothing else, and you can't connect this to anything else, and it's got to be here in its own little box. And if nothing else, that is exactly what Bruce Lee didn't want, or at least seems like it to me.
That was the one constant, it seemed like.
Yeah, and to make it original JKD, and this is what he taught, and keep it here and don't change this, seems contraindicated to what he wanted to do with it. But and I'm sure I'll catch some comments about that, and that's okay. But ultimately, I like the idea of not being bound.
Yeah.
And just saying like, hey, if this works for you, use it. If this works for you, use it. Now, here's the thing: is that like where I think the real argument comes into play is philosophy versus like JKD philosophy versus like curriculum. Because you got these people that say that it's not a style. Okay, I can see where it could be a style and not a style. You got people say where it's just a philosophy. Okay, well, I could see how if you didn't want to train any martial arts and you just wanted to wax on, philosophical over beers, sure, I guess it's a philosophy. Mm-hmm. But even if it's just a philosophy that you begin to apply to various martial art things, in your training, that you start weeding out, I like this, I don't like this, I like this, I don't like this, until you have a structure of things that you like, and you start to understand as a teacher, this way doesn't communicate it as well as this way does. Right. And so like you start to get better teaching methods. Right. And so then it becomes like you start to show the other teachers or the students under you, they learn their methods. So they teach that way too. And there are some things that we say, hey, we're going to teach it this way every time. So that everybody starts in the same place. Mm-hmm. You still can branch out into understanding it your own way, but there should be a fundamental part first. Right. Just like jiu-jitsu, there should be fundamentals, but then everybody develops their own game off of those.
Yes.
That's a style. Once you have a curriculum of physical techniques, and once you have a curriculum of specific training methods, that's a style. And that style may have been born from the philosophy, but you can't just be like, well, no, it's not a style, it's a philosophy. No, it's a style. It's 100% a style. You know how I know? Because I went through this process. And for a while, because like KSK stands for Kaishin-kan Dojo. Mm-hmm. And so for a while, I referred to my curriculum as Kaishin Jeet Kune Do, just to say that it's the Jeet Kune Do that came from the Kaishin-kan, from KSK Martial Arts, right? Mm-hmm. And holy cow, man, did people come crawling out of the woodwork about like, oh, look at you, make up your own style. I didn't. make it up. It's just what has formed over the years from these various, like, dude, it's amazing the politics and sometimes I don't think people get into JKD for martial arts or friendship or health. I think they get into it to argue.
Yeah.
JKD would be great for lawyers.
It would be, or politicians, or just anybody with it, like, with an online arguing process, especially, and it's a damn shame, because that's how we'll fuck it up for everybody. Excuse my language, right? Is by doing that. When if we could just kind of work together, let everybody do their own thing and support them, right?
Yeah. I think the hard part, and I think this is a valid criticism.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I just cut you off, didn't I?
You're fine.
You finish your thought. I'm sorry.
You're good, brother.
I think one of the hard parts, and this is a valid criticism, is when people who are original JKD guys will say things like, "Oh, well, Jeet Kune Do Concepts guys, you're just taking a jab from boxing, a round kick from Muay Thai, a sweep from Silat, and a hip throw from Judo, and it's just a hodgepodge of shit all thrown together." Isn't that how the original JKD stuff got put together too? You know what I'm saying? Like, it seems like you guys went through the exact same process, but you just decided to stop.
Yeah.
And it's, we have a set curriculum, for our JKD, for our Filipino martial arts, for our Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and even for our little ninjas and our rising warriors. We have 5 curriculums that we teach here. And I'm always reworking them. I'm always updating them. Every year they all get a revamp, because you wouldn't be a good JKD guy if you didn't, but make no mistake, there is a structured curriculum, and we use a rank structure that goes along with it, because it just works better to have things in layers and tiers. So you establish a certain foundation, then move to the next level that builds upon that. And it makes sense. So just because Bruce Lee said, that's not what I want, and that's great, but Bruce Lee will also tell you that you're not Bruce Lee, and I'm not Bruce Lee, and that was great. That was great for him, but it also, what he started spawned into something bigger than him.
Yes.
And that's okay to say that, and it's okay to be like, well, yeah, it's evolved into something different. I mean, 47 years ago, I was born, but I have gone through many evolutions since my birth. I am not the same person too. I went through infancy where people had to spoon feed me things. I went through adolescence where I had to learn some really hard lessons. I went through early adulthood where you discover some personal freedoms and find some truths, and also discover there's way more questions than you ever thought. Yeah. Like as you mature down the road, you discover this, right? And Bruce Lee was never afforded that opportunity to get older than about 33.
Yes, sir.
And I think of myself at 33. Man, had I put a cork in it right there and been like, here, this is the curriculum forever. Oh, I'd have lost out on so much.
Yeah.
I'd have lost out on so much. So much. So to me, JKD Concepts is like, yeah, I can go in every direction. I'm sure. I think it's important to say what school is the JKD Concepts coming from, or who's the teacher coming from. But ultimately, JKD Concepts just means it's going to have stuff other than just what was in the original.
Yeah. I love the fact, like I said, I was a little bugged out when I first came back. I had about 10 years where I didn't teach and I wasn't doing much martial arts. I spent a lot of time on a bar stool. Things weren't going well. So when I came back, I was like Jin Fan, and I just remember the politics. I didn't know what to call it, right? Because I don't want to irritate anybody. I just want to go teach my students and help my students as best I can. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And
I do.
It sounds like that's what you're doing. And, our AIM program that we're putting together now is essentially the same thing. And we're trying to just take our arts and break them down by root movement for repetition. Then put them into a filter where they can get to their sapudalams and all of the, different techniques that we're so lucky to have learned from Guru Nanak. So that's amazing that you're doing. I bet that Guru Dan won't come to your seminar, but I bet he'll probably smile if somebody tells him you're doing it. And that, to me,
I bet he would. I bet he would too.
Yeah, and that's the most
I bet
important
it
thing,
would
right?
too.
So I think it's just amazing what you're doing for what it's worth. Brother, do you want to come back and talk to us after the seminar? Maybe, and we'll look at some video and stuff like that, and we'll have you back.
No, sure. I'd love to. You did. You had sent me a list of questions I didn't get a chance to get to. Was there anything else that you wanted to specifically ask me about from that list?
Well, I'm not super organized, brother. Okay, don't let whatever the
Okay.
green screen fool you. I might have sent them to you, and I might not have at the same time,
Okay.
right?
That's
So,
that's fair.
yeah,
That's
very
fair.
fair. So one thing, offending martial arts, we love beginners, man, and beginners sometimes are looking at things, and anything that I can ask a seasoned martial artist, what is something in the next 24 hours that you could do that maybe is a good habit or lays a good foundation, or is just something you could introduce to your life from a martial arts point of view?
So, not a martial artist yet. Wants to become a martial artist. Something they can do in 24 hours to help that journey. Is that correct?
No, a new martial arts student, we'll say within 1 to 2 years, okay, maybe
Oh.
6 months,
Oh.
right? They're in the school, everything they see is magic, right? They're at that point, right? And then all of a sudden you think, well, can you go home and do a box step for maybe 15 minutes or whatever? Those types of things.
So, I think a couple of the things. Number one, I'm big on understand your goal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm big on understand your goal. Know, like, am I training this for competition? Am I training this for health? Am I training this for community? Am I training this for fun? Am I training this for self-defense? Am I training this because I don't know why, but this stuff just looks really cool to me? You know, like,
Which is all okay.
Yep. The reason is not important. What's important is that you have a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other thing is, like, it's okay for that reason to change.
Yes, sir.
But when sometimes people get into it for competition, and then, like, but that's not what they're gonna do the whole time. Some people get into martial arts for self-defense, and then sometimes they discover they're in a school that maybe is not the best for self-defense, but they love the people there, and the classes are so much fun, and so they just stick around, and it adds great value to their life. So, like, so you have to understand that it's important to have a reason, and it's okay for the reason to change. The reason itself is less important.
Yes.
The second thing I'm going to say is, number two, I guess you got to have fun, right? You've got to enjoy what you're doing, because if you don't have fun, you're going to quit. It doesn't matter. Like, you will quit.
Yeah.
I stuck around with one art I did for 8 years because I love the art, but maybe not necessarily everybody I learned it from.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I moved on. It took me 8 years to move on, but I moved on. Eventually I got more sick of the dealing with the people than I did of dealing with the art.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so I maintain what I can maintain, and I move on. So that does happen. So I would say make sure that you enjoy the people you're training with and the things that you're training. And then the third is find a way to be consistent. And the reason I say that is, all you got to do to be successful in martial arts is not quit.
Yeah,
once you quit, it's so hard to come back. It's so hard to come back. Because then you feel like you're trying to make up ground you've already gained. You feel like you're so far behind the ball, right? You don't like that feeling because it no longer feels like brand new things anymore.
Yeah.
It's so hard to quit. But if you don't stop, as long as you're consistent, even if things happen in your life and you have to drop down to 1 day a week or something, as long as it's there consistently somehow, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the other part of that becomes be careful of burnout, because I've seen guys that, like, dude, they're there 5, 6, 7 days a week for 2 solid years, and then they just disappear.
Yep.
And I can't tell you how many times I have seen people fry out at about that 2-year mark after just, like, not missing anything, just being there all the time, and they're deep members of the family, and then all of a sudden it just happens to folks. And so I think, finding a pace that you can be consistent with, somewhere between 2 to 4 times a week, is going to get you growth, right? It's going to get you progression, but also still allows time let it continue to be fresh and new and find balance amongst the other things in your life. So, to me, 2 to 4 times a week. And then you got those, and unless you're one of those crazy people, like myself, that's a 7-day-a-weeker. And, some of us are okay too doing that. Right. And I think the reason I can do that is because I do more than one art.
Brother, I bet that's gotta help, right? And you still have one you might be teaching today, but then there's this other one that's still shiny and new that you're still learning, or a new piece. Helps, yeah.
And I've always got, like, you can't do all the arts all at once, but I've always got like one art that I'm focusing on, and I've got like a secondary one that's like kind of also on my brain, and then kind of everything else stays at a maintenance level.
Yeah, brother.
I got that one that I'm currently growing, that one that I'm keeping an eye on, you know what I mean? And and everything else will maintain. And that'll jump back and forth, between all that the JKD concepts encompasses, so that'll go back and forth between like the kickboxing mechanics or the Junfan trapping or the Silat, or the combat submission wrestling stuff, whatever it might be. It'll go back and forth with the jujitsu, the rute, with the internal arts, just.
You remain a student. If you remain a student and then you're also teaching, that spark is there. So the 7-day, it's just already built in. Yeah. That's a beautiful thing.
It's too bad we got to get older, man. It's tougher as the body breaks down a little bit, because I have all these arts I love, but like sometimes I get forced into taking little breaks. So like I'll go 7 days a week hardcore for like a year, and then all of a sudden I will get incredibly sick for like a month, or I'm dealing with like a pinched nerve right now, that's forcing me to take a little hiatus from stuff, and that's just my body reminding me like, hey man, pace yourself.
Yeah, but we don't have to quit because we are JKD Concepts guys, so we can just shift a new focus over here for just something to our body and keep that passion alive, which I think is one of the beautiful things.
No, I agree.
100%. One other part. Do you have anybody you could recommend to come on the podcast? And I don't want to put you in an awkward situation or on the spot, but somebody you could recommend that you think's got a good story that would come on the FormABLE podcast and share it with us?
Yeah. Right off the bat, I always think of my good friend, Nick Suino. Sensei Suino runs the Japanese Martial Arts Center out of Ann Arbor, Michigan. He has lived and taught in Japan. He does karate, iaido, Japanese jiu-jitsu, and judo. I think he's a 7th dan in judo. He has written multiple books. He was also a survivor of the Unabomber. Just an incredible person. I would 100% recommend my jiu-jitsu professor, Professor Chet Skemmelhorn. He's been through all 4 versions of the Gracie instructor program. He's a 4th degree black belt under them. He's been with them like 25 years or something like that. He's one of the originals. Actually got to train with Elio. And I would probably also heavily recommend Guru Daniel Lanero if you get an opportunity to connect with him. I bring him out for my own personal training. It's a little gift I do for myself. Once a year, I bring him out for me for a 2-day private, 8 hours of private training. And I'll usually invite a couple of the instructors, in my school as like a thank you to come join me, but it's for it's for me, it's just to get me better. Yeah. But so that's just a little something I do for myself. But, over these last 7 years or so that I've been doing that with him, I've gotten the opportunity to, get to know him on a more than just a martial arts basis. But I've got to have a lot of good conversations with him, got to hear some of his history, some of his experiences and the stories and his beliefs on things and whatnot. And he's a fantastic individual and he's a very good human being. And if you get the opportunity to speak with Guru Lanero, I'd highly recommend it.
I appreciate that. One of the times I was out at the Inasano Academy, he was very, very sweet to me, and him and his wife, before they were married, drove me back to the hostel. So,
okay.
Yeah, they're just wonderful people altogether. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So could you provide us with the dates for your Silat camp?
Oh, yeah. The Silat Camp is going to be June 28th and 29th. It will be held right here at my school in Lansing, Michigan. You can register for the camp by going to our website at kskmartialarts.com. And there should be like a little seminars tab. You go down and register. But yeah, that's the whole night. I think we're going from like 10 to 4, 10 to 6. They're going to be kind of long days, but we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to be taking I think we're going to take like regular 20-minute to 30-minute breaks every 90 minutes or something. We're going to try and teach in shorter blocks and give a little like 20 to 30-minute break between blocks so that people have time to sit down, get an energy bar, take a snack, but then also write down their notes and things that they want to, because I mean, that feeling of going to a 5-hour seminar and just like trying to scribble down anything you can as you're moving at a light speed pace, and then lunch hits and like you want to go eat lunch, and you're trying to eat and you're trying to write and trying to remember. And so I like to kind of factor in note-taking time for people so that they are able to walk away with a more complete experience.
That's great, Kent. Whoever comes to the seminar is going to definitely get something, and then also have that moment to attain it, right? Or work on retaining it. I wish. Yeah. Anyway, that's great that you're doing that. I think it's great. And we will put a link to the Silat seminar in the description of the episode, as well as down in the comments section, so you guys can check it out if you are in the Michigan area. Go train with Guru Kent Nelson, and definitely check out his Silat camp. I think Guru Dan's definitely going to smile when he hears about it, so that's probably the most important thing. All right, so this is Guru Kent Nelson and Guru Jamie Sparling from Affinity Martial Arts. We are signing off of this episode of the FormABLE podcast. Like, subscribe, and leave a comment. I'm going to bring Guru Kent back. We're going to talk about some different things, and if you leave a question, I'd love to answer it. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon or on the next time that you see the FormABLE podcast. Bada bing! Did you have fun?
That was fun, man. Thank you. I appreciate that. It was good.
No, it was really cool. It was really cool. Yeah. I imagine you did. If there's any time I ever ask you a question and it gets weird, because sometimes it is political, right? Right? So like the JKD concepts things, but I just really thought it was cool that I remember I was very standoffish. Literally don't even want to teach it. Just give me Huba. Just give me Huba. I don't want no cheese. I don't want nothing. Somebody tells me my tonsils off by a 42 degree. My fingers aren't in the right, separate. Like, I got bigger problems than all of that. Trust me.
What's funny? Now that we're off the air, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna turn. Keep going, brother. You talk
about people doing stuff like that tonsil, right? Like, oh, get your fingers together and all that kind of thing. And that's